Namaste and good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila Gimire, Program Associate at Resources Himalayan Foundation. I'd like to welcome everyone in this program where we are all gathered from all around the world to celebrate the International Red Panda Day. Thank you for all the organizing team for your effort and to make this joint program possible. We will be having two sessions. The first session will be presentation and the second session will be remark session. We have Dr. Dinesh Nupane as the moderator of the program. He has been involved in the sector of wildlife and environmental conservation as a researcher for over 16 years now. Even though Dr. Nupane is an expert in elephant, he has worked in other wildlife related issues, including red panda as well. He's currently involved as an executive director at Resources Himalayan Foundation. Now, without further delay, I would like to request Dr. Nupane to take over the platform and moderate the program. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Nupane.
Thank you, Sheila. Namaskar and good morning from Nepal to everyone around the globe. We are gathered here in this virtual platform to celebrate the International Red Panda Day 2021. This year, we have been celebrating this year in partnership with the Red Panda Network, a Geological Survey of India, Department of Forest Bhutan, Small Mammal Conservation and Research Foundation from Nepal, and Resources Himalayan Foundation from Nepal. The International Red Panda Day is celebrated on third Saturday of September every year to raise the voice to public and support for red panda conservation since 2010. Red Panda Network was the one who launched this day in 2010. Being endangered, red panda, they are included in the priority species in the range countries. However, they have been facing some threats to the population survival, including habitat loss, habitat fragmentation, illegal trade, exploitation of resources or forest resources, diseases, and climate change. There are less than 2,500 red panda left in the wild, and their population has been declined by 50% in the last 20 years. So we need to take a collaborative research-based conservation approaches or program to secure their survival for future and minimize the threat. Today, in this program, we will be talking about various aspects of red panda conservation. This program will be for 1.5 hours long and divided into two sessions. In the first session, we will be listening about the research papers from 4 range countries, India, Bhutan, China, and Nepal. In the second session, we'll be taking some remarks from experts on various topics related to red panda conservation around the globe. For the first session, we have 4 presenters, Professor Dr. Yubi Hu from Institute of Geology, China, Dr. Mukesh Thakur from Geological Survey of India, Mr. Dambar Bista from Red Panda Network Nepal office, and Mr. Pema Dendup from Department of Forest and Park Services, Bhutan. Before starting the formal session, we will be also hearing information about red panda ecology and conservation from Dr. Arjun Thapa Arjun Thapa from Small Mammal Conservation and Research Foundation, Nepal. For the second session, we will have planned to hear the remarks from the Mr. Ang Furi Sherpa, Nepal's country director of Red Panda Network, but due to some technical problem, Mr. Sherpa will not be available today. However, we will have Mr. Harish Chandra Rai from Red Panda Network Nepal office with us in the remark session. We will also Dr. Angela Gladstone from Red Panda Network, Dr. Sunita Pradhan from Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, India, and Mr. Haribhadra Acharya from Department of National Park and Wildlife Conservation, Government of Nepal. Now, moving towards the program, before starting the first session, we want to hear from Dr. Arjun Thapa about information of red panda and its ecology. Dr. Thapa is a research director at Small Mammal Conservation Research Foundation, Nepal. He did his PhD in ecology from Institute of Geology, Chinese Academy of Sciences. He has carried out various research related to red panda habitat, diet patterns, and so on. He has experience on evolutionary biology, population genetics, ecology, and biodiversity conservation. I request Dr. Thapa to proceed this talk now. Dr. Thapa, the floor is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Dear experts and all audience, today we are gathered to celebrate International Red Panda Day, and which is a very special day for to save the nature, save the red panda. Today my talks belongs to red panda ecology and conservation, which is very simple and basic skills for the all peoples. So I start my talks. Uh, as we know all that this species belongs to carnivora and a single member of Allididae family. Special interests they have very much a dietary habitats, though they belongs to carnivores. And all these dietary skills, they able to specialize highly bamboo feeder. It's like a giant panda. This unique evolution character makes red panda age a focal species in research that entice conservation biologists as well as evolutionary biologists to understand the evolutionary adaptation. Beside this, with these values, the conservation is also entice in this sector to protect and conserve red panda. Basically, these animals is have body covered with thick, rich, reddish brown above back and beneath, and have a white face with striped red brown that ranges from eye to corner of mouth, and bushy tail with a 12 uh, front bend, and they have a solitary in nature, and they have well adapted morphologically, physiologically to coline moist environments. For the physical features, their body ranges in captive. They can grow from 3.7 kg to 6.2 kg at adult. In wild, the generally goes to 4 kg. Head body range from 50 to 65 cm and tail is 30 to 50 cm. Where lifespan is 14 years in maximum, and average lifespan 8 to 10 years. In captive, they live a little bit larger, almost 13 years. Looking through the conservation status history in 1998, it is known as insufficiently known species. In 1990s, also similar insufficiently known. In 1994, they have included vulnerable species. From 1996, they down upgrade to endangered species. Then in 2008, again it belongs to vulnerable species. Now it belongs to endangered species. Um, in their conservation status. In national context, in Nepal, they are belong to protected species. They belong to under protected species under the Department of National Park and Wildlife Conservation Act. In China, in China, they classify as second-class protected species in China. Along with they have included in appendix first and CITES. For all these are conservation status built to protect red panda in different categories, and this category is preference for red panda conservation priorities. Looking through the distributions, in Western distribution belongs to Nepal, Etila, Coronal rivers in Western Nepal, and in Eastern range they belong to Upper Min Valley in Minshan Mountain in Sichuan province. In Nepal, they almost belong to from Eastern, Central, and Western Nepal. In India, it distributed in West Bengal, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and even Meghalaya, but there is no recent evidence from Meghalaya since long time. In Bhutan, in most of the protected area and biological corridor, they are distributed in northern part of Myanmar. The panda habitat are available in China. They are distributed in three provinces: Tibet, Yunnan, and Sichuan. Looking through different population status, in 2002, Chaudhary estimated that 16,000 to 20,000 wild red panda population. In similar time in China, also estimated there are 3,000 to 7,000 wild panda in 1990s estimates. In other range countries from except China, they have 5 to 7,000 species, which is also noted by Chaudhary 2001. Currently, IUCN status, Gaston 2015 estimated less than 8,000 global wild red panda populations. In case of Nepal, there is estimated 3,312 individuals, which is estimated in 1989, and lately they are estimated at around 582 individuals. Similarly, in single national park, they are estimated as 78. In Sikkim, around 370. All this estimated based on forest cover, slope aspect, but they are not based on rigorous ecological population survey or not any census. These are all the estimated population. But looking this estimate, it shows the population is declining from the wild. Most of the studies, early study focus on habitat ecology, and most important ecologically habitat features are green forest, evergreen deciduous forest, broadleaf forest, deciduous forest, deciduous and conifer mixed forest, and coniferous forest. Though they are the indicator species of eastern Himalayan coniferous forest. And also other important factors are slope aspect, high density of fallen log, shrub, bamboo cover, tree canopy, close proximity to water resources. These are the important habitat features to build a suitability for the red panda in the natural habitat. If we interested to build habitat suitability model, they have some variables that are important and that are important to build suitability habitat of red panda. And all this information based on secondary sources. These important features are distribution of bamboo play key roles, forest distribution, forest type, forest age, forest age, elevation, slope aspect, canopy, fallen log, bamboo height, bamboo density, distance to water. These are the important habitat features when we are building suitability models to predict how much suitable habitat in our areas. Based on the recent study, potential habitat of red panda has ranged larger area in China, which indicated 61%, and then Nepal have represented 14%. Similarly, so on. It shows that most of the habitat lies in China and Nepal, and similarly in Nepal, India, Bhutan, and Myanmar. From this figure, we can show that the species occurrence data from the eastern to western Nepal, from different collection, from species occurrence, from museum species, even sighting. From this figure, we can see that. Based on this potential habitat, more than 30% habitat, around 30% habitat lies within the protected areas. Though more than 70% habitat lies outside the protected area, it indicates that it needs more conservation efforts to protect the red panda habitat in the protected area. Among the all range countries, Bhutan indicates the best, covering almost red panda habitat inside the protected area than other range countries. Similarly, for the foraging ecology, we need to know how we can identify red panda in the wild, because they are shy, nature, and very difficult to direct observation in the field. So we use fishery as the main indicator of this species present in the wild habitat. And most of the studies based on wild, most of the study based on feeding ecology were based on dietary studies that use microhistological and macrohistological analysis using the faeces samples. And based on these studies, various studies, it identified that bamboo is one of the most important food for red panda, which contribute more than 90% in their dietary. And also there is seasonal fruiting berries. They are also important for nutritional value during the breeding seasons. This fruit and berry would be provide supplement nutrient food. They have a different variety in different ranges, and they contribute for their breeding season as a source of high nutrient for breeding seasons. We can easily distinguish fresh and wool fishes in the field from looking their natures of greenish. In different range country, they have a different food plants. Basically, they belongs to bamboo, then other species like mushroom, shrubbush, and then rhododendron, even Abies spectabilis. They also use as a food, as supplementary food for red panda. They have varieties of food across the range, and they have different fruiting berries, just like shrubbush, microphylla, Rosa shuricia, and they are the supplementary food. Though main food is bamboo species. In movement ecology, they have a very few study on it. Randy Italy in 1991, Wei and Zhang Italy 2011, and Yunzhen Italy 1989. There are very few study on radiocollar, which is the important methods and good techniques to understand the movement ecology of species. So based on these previous studies, they have shown that male height higher home range than females across the range, and they also have different home range in different range country that could be driven by different food resources available in their habitats. Recently, in Nepal, they have also some radiocollar red panda in eastern Nepal, and you can see very good result in near futures from that study. Besides the ecology, they have conservation threats. We did some review and identify the 13 different types of threats to red panda. Red panda face across the range. Among these 13 threats, habitat loss and degradation, poaching and illegal trade, developmental activities, illegal herbal plant collection are the major drivers or major threats faced by red panda across the range country. From these figures, we know that there are 13 different types of threats based on finding of literature reviews. These are the photographs that are represented threats by red panda: slide fire, hydropowers, and then grazing, poaching, herbal collection, even road construction for hydropower. These are the major threats across the range. How they are important for us? Because they provide ecosystem services, as well as they are the indicator ecological health of temperate forest. They could play an important role to flagship species to contribute or other species in alpine ecosystem. Then we can generate economy from ecotourism, promoting species-based ecotourism to sustain local livelihoods. And they have some cultural value across the range. This point make how red panda is important for us and how it is important for us and why we need to protect these species. There are several activities going on to protect red panda protect the red panda. They build many documents like action plan, human resource development, field implementation. For instance, Red Panda National Survey in Nepal, some institutional training, community-based monitoring, and conservation campaign, and other individual projects by different NGOs, government authorities, and their enforcement of law and regulation. These are the activities going on for conservation of red panda across the range. These are the documents published to prioritize and to conserve red panda. Nepal also built Red Panda Conservation Action Plan from 2019 to 2022. Similarly, Bhutan also built a conservation action plan for red panda 2018 to 2023. Similarly, Nepal government also built field-based red panda monitoring protocol that based on community-based monitoring. Besides that, they have some population biology analysis from Nepal, India, and China. These information are important for us to protect the red panda. And based on this document, the conservation activities are going on. From the research point of view, most of the stories of red panda focus on habitat ecology, foraging ecology, movement ecology, and molecular ecology. However, there is few studies on pathogen, gut microbiota, and isotope. So in future, these areas, pathogen, isotope, and gut microbiota are the important aspect to understand the species ecology to protect the red panda in the wild as well as in the captive. We have a recent findings for the red panda. We did some work on these findings, and we previously this species suggest as to subspecies of red panda. which should be built by a barrier by a rivers, that is Lujian River that lies in China. And in that time, they write as Chinese subspecies and Himalayan subspecies. However, there is very few information to distinguish these species as two separate species. Then there is some question to solve this problem. So we started to work on from the perspective of genomics, and we collect the sample from across the range, including Western distribution limit and Eastern distribution limit, and we did whole genome sequencing, mitochondrial genome, and Y-SNPs, as well as morphological difference. Based on genetics, based on this genomic informations and morphological differences, we conclude there is two distinct species of red panda, and we name it Chinese red panda. It's always tiny, which is distributed in China, Myanmar, and India, and Himalayan red panda species always fallen, which is distributed in Nepal, India, and Bhutan, and south of Tibet. Previously, Lujian River is considered a biological barrier. Now, Elajambu rivers, which is the originator of Brahmaputra River, is considered as biological barrier for these two red panda, for the distinct two species. For the future, what we can do to protect the red panda, we need to establish some regional database and upgrade knowledge of ecology for wild panda populations. We should establish coordination partnership among the organization and national regarding red panda conservation. We have to initiate transboundary conservation, establishment of biological corridor, extension of existing protected areas. We also need to do some symbiotic species conservation concepts to protect many species, taking red panda as the flagships. And we should to continue community conservation areas and community-based monitoring from the different parts of each range country. As well as we should to conduct conservation education and awareness campaign among the students, among locals, even the herders, and all peoples who live in remote parts of mountain areas. Also, we need to do some hygiene assessment of both these species separately in futures. For doing best research, we need to combine remote sensing, radio collecting data from the space, and transit land camera tracking data from ground, and genetics, nutrient and microbiota, and isotope from molecules. Understanding all these things, we can do some habitat evaluation, research monitoring, and population monitoring. If we integrate all these aspects, we can protect red panda in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thapa, for a very informative presentation. Of course, your presentation covers the conservation status and the progress history, habitat features, suitability, and then diet, distribution, trade, and even given a clear picture about the future direction for red panda conservation. Today's in this program, we have aimed to get some information on these aspects of aspects that you given in the presentation. Thank you, Dr. Thapa, for this presentation. Now I would like to move to the session first. As I mentioned earlier, we have 4 presenters from 4 countries in the session. For the first presentation, we have Professor Dr. Yu Hu. Professor Hu is a professor at the Institute of Zoology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, China. He has a wide range of experience in conservation genetics, population genomics, convergent evolution, and coevolution. He has been performing conservation genomics of wild mammals, particularly giant panda and red panda. Today, Professor Hu will be talking about population status and genetic structure of red panda in China. Professor Hu, the floor is.
Wait a minute. Okay. Could you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for organizing this meeting to celebrate International Red Panda Day. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to introduce population status and genetic structure of red pandas in China. Red panda is endemic to Himalaya and Himalayan mountains. In China, they are distributed in 3 provinces, Sichuan province, Yunnan province, and Tibet province. Specifically for mountains, they are distributed in Qionglai Mountains, Liangshan, Xiaoxiangli, Daxueshan, Shalulishan, Gaoligong, and the Himalaya. They are sympatric in Sichuan with gender panda, so it can get more protection from panda reserves. In China, it's estimated that 6,000 to 7,000 red pandas occurred in the wild, but these data are from 2 old reference, so this information should be updated. But yeah, recently no more wild surveys. In China, there are many nature reserves and 2 national parks cover the current and historical distribution of red pandas. In Sichuan province, there are 42 reserves, Yunnan 10 reserves, Tibet 7 reserves. Now, China is constructing national park system. Of the 10 national parks, there are 2 national parks covering the distribution of red pandas, Gender Panda National Park and Potasso National Park. So the national park protection system can protect the red panda. Main strengths. In China, the red panda population and habitat is facing the threats of habitat loss and fragmentation, infrastructure construction such as road, hydropower station, mining, and poaching is threatening the red panda population, herbal plant collection. So mainly human activities here. For a long time, the red panda is regarded to include 2 subspecies, Chinese subspecies and the Himalaya subspecies. Lujiang River is regarded as the boundary. Corning Guru even updated the 2 subspecies into 2 species based on the morphological differences. But this subspecies or species classification faces some controversies because lack of genetic evidence, because geographic variation in morphological differences occurred between Lujiang River. So we performed a conservation genomic study of red pandas. We want to answer the genomic evidence for subspecies or species classification. We want to investigate divergence histories. We want to assess genomic diversity for species, subspecies, or population. So we use the 3 types of markers: whole genome resequencing, Y chromosome slip genotyping, mitochondrial genome sequencing. Our samples are from 7 populations, from Sichuan, Yunnan, Tibet to Nepal, together with Arjun Sapa collaboration. Whole genome sleep results suggest 2 significant lineages between 2 subspecies. From this figure, we can see the samples from Himalaya subspecies formed a significant genetic lineage. Other samples formed another. Structure analysis and PCA analysis also identified two genetic lineages. Moreover, for Chinese subspecies, we identified three genetic populations. Eastern Himalaya and Gaoligung is a genetic cluster. Shaoxiangli Mountain and Liangshan Mountain are a genetic cluster. Chungnai population is a genetic cluster. For Y chromosome sleep and mitochondrial genome, we also found significant genetic divergence between two subspecies. The haplotypes from Himalaya subspecies clustered together is significant divergent from other samples. So, based on the evidence from three types of markers, we can propose two phylogenetic species, Himalayan red panda and the Chinese red panda. This species classification was supported by morphological evidence from Connie Grove's study. Interestingly, we found the Yalu River is a boundary between two subspecies, not Nujiang River. This proposal is supported by India study. This study is from Pakua's research team. They used mitochondrial DNA loop. They also found two genetic lineages, such as Yalu River is a real boundary. For these two subspecies, we can use the face coat color and the tail ring color to discriminate two subspecies. We explored their demographic history. We found the two species' demographic histories are very different. For Chinese red panda, we found two population bottlenecks and one large expansion. For Himalayan red panda, we found three population bottlenecks and one very small expansion. The penultimate glaciation maybe drive the first bottleneck and drive their divergence. The divergence time is 220,000 years ago. Gene flow analysis found Eastern Himalaya and Gaoligung population is the source of gene flow. Genomic diversity analysis found the Himalayas red panda has the lowest genetic diversity, regardless of three types of markers. For Chinese red panda, we found the Eastern Himalaya and Gaoligung population has the highest genetic diversity. Based on the gene flow analysis and genetic diversity analysis, we found the Eastern Himalaya and Gaoligung population may be the Pleistocene glacial refugium. So our study have important conservation implications for red panda conservation. Firstly, we provided the first genomic evidence for two subspecies, two species. So correct the species distribution boundary, which is very important to the conservation of two species. Secondly, the Himalayan red panda has the lowest genetic diversity and has no population size. So this highlights the urgency of protecting this species. For Chinese red panda, we identified three genetic populations, so we can suggest three management units for conservation. Fourthly, significant genetic divergence between two species implies avoiding their interbreeding in captivity to reserve their genetic uniqueness. Finally, because red panda habitat spans 5 countries, so transboundary conservation cooperation is necessary for their effective conservation. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Fishu. It was very nice and informative presentation regarding these red panda genetics and the conservation approaches that has been practiced in China. Thank you so much. It was very informative and very technical about the red panda genetics. Moving to the next presentation, we have Mr. Dambar Bista from Nepal. Mr. Bista is a PhD candidate at the University of Queensland, Australia, and working in red panda in his PhD research. He has over 10 years of research experience in red panda conservation. Yep. Mr. Bista has over 10 years of research experience in the red panda research. Currently, he is leading a research project on movement and spatial ecology of red panda jointly with Red Panda Network, Rotterdam Zoo, and the University of Queensland. Today, Mr. Bista is presenting his talk entitled Red Panda Conservation in Nepal. Are we on right track? I request Mr. Bista to proceed his talk. Mr. Bista, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dinesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's very clear.
And probably you are also seeing my screen, right? Okay. So hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to wish you everyone a very happy International Red Panda Day, the 12th one. We had celebrated this event for the first time in 2000, and in Nepal actually we celebrated the first International Red Panda Day in 2011, and it was in Kathmandu and Taplejung. Unfortunately, I was participating in that event in Taplejung. So in next nearly 10 minutes, I would be talking about the major conservation milestones that we have achieved in Nepal, and the conservation challenges and future priorities, what should be. Moving on to this conservation milestones, I have highlighted the major achievements we achieved in last nearly 35 years. So I guess most of you know this man who is the pioneer red panda researcher, Dr. Yonjan, late Dr. Yonjan. He collared 6 red pandas in central Nepal and monitored them for more than 1 year using the VHF technology by that time. And his study contributed to unveil some of the most unknown ecological aspect of red panda from the wild. And his study further contributed to upgrade the threatened status of IUCN from unknown, insufficiently known to vulnerable in 1994, and 1996 it was upgraded to vulnerable to endangered status. And he was also the first one to predict the red panda distribution habitat in Nepal. And it's quite interesting that the technology and the techniques he used by that time was, it wasn't that good, even though he was succeed in predicting such a very fine scale habitat prediction. If we look onto the today's habitat distribution modeling, there has been a lot of work carried out since in last 5-6 years, and here we can see that all those studies have predicted the habitat around the same line where Dr. Yonjan had predicted. So in this sense, now we have very sophisticated data of red panda distribution. And out of those different studies, the last one that was based on national survey, it's still unpublished, though that is the most comprehensive and most authentic because we had covered almost all red panda range areas. And based on that study, we have also been able to develop this occupancy based prediction of red panda across the range area. And this is another large achievement we have been able to make so far. And from the same study, National Red Panda Survey, we have identified 13 different bamboo species. As you know, that bamboo is one of the major determinants of red panda, because more than 90% of their diet merely relies on bamboo. So the bamboo, work on bamboo was missing so far. It was lacking, and we have been able to develop this bamboo distribution map across the entire country. And I'm sure this is going to be a great, achievement, and it will contribute more and more in future to conserve red pandas. And apart from this, despite we achieved this, large scale, some studies, especially around habitat distribution and predictions, there is still a large void, especially in some thematic areas. And I'm sure the future studies will highlight, will prioritize these overlooked areas in the future. And in this map, we can see the studies on the different thematic areas that were carried out in other countries. It's represented with that red bar, and those studies carried out in Nepal is represented in Nepal. Recently, we published a review article, covering the literature of nearly 193 years, and this finding is based on that paper. And apart from this achievements, this community-based red panda conservation program is another very significant milestone we have been able to achieve. And initially, it was initiated in Eastern Nepal from Ilam in 2007. And now this program covers nearly 10 districts, very contrasting areas, as a professor who shared that the genetic diversity goes on decreasing towards west. And we have selected two different populations having the highest genetic diversity in Nepal, in Eastern region, and that population having the lowest genetic diversity in the westernmost part of Nepal. And all these study areas, those project areas are outside the protected areas. And this community-based conservation program covers basically 4 different components, including research and monitoring, awareness building, sustainable livelihood, and habitat management. And First Guardian program, which we have used to train local people as citizen scientists. That is one of the signature activity of this program. And another signature activity is Red Panda-based ecotourism, which has been really successful in Nepal, especially in Eastern Nepal, Ilam, Pastar. It's not that developed in Pastar, but in Ilam and Taplejung, it's really developed. Many people are coming to see red pandas in the wild. And I remember in the early days when I started working in Eastern Nepal, it was in 2011. It used to take even more than 2-3 weeks to make a single sighting. But these days, the success rate of spotting has been come down to within just 2-3 days. In Ilam, you can spot a red panda. So we are also working with local livestock hodder to promote goat stay tourism, and that's a kind of the local tourism where one can experience the life of local cattle hodder and witness how they live their life amidst the natural resources. And this is the result of community-based monitoring. Local people, those who have been trained as citizen scientists, they have been collecting data of red panda signs since 2011. And in Eastern Nepal, this is the result of Eastern Nepal. And here we can clearly show that the red panda status has been gradually, although it's very slow, but it's still increasing. And this shows the success of community-based red panda conservation, and we see the feasibility of outscaling this program in other range areas, and even this program can fit very well with other species, not only limited to red panda. And this is another conservation milestone. Dr. Thapa already shared about those things. And the government of Nepal is implementing the first conservation action plan. And so these are the major conservation milestones we have been able to achieve in the last 35 years. So moving on to this conservation challenges, still we have conservation challenges, and I have categorized them into just two categories. The first one is poaching and illegal trade. There has been some studies carried out on this aspect, and traffic has covered the entire range countries. Based on these two reports and another study that we carried out based on national survey again, all these studies show that the poaching and illegal trade related issue is relatively much higher in Nepal than in other 4 range countries. And habitat loss and fragmentation, of course, is another conservation challenge. And of these, livestock hoarding and the local people's high dependency on natural resources are the major reasons. But in the present days, the road construction is taking the lead, because a lot of developmental activities are taking place in Nepal. And just to examine how red pandas are responding to these disturbances, we studied the movement and spatial ecology in a human-dominated landscape in Nepal. That's in eastern Nepal. And for that, we colored 10 red pandas with GPS satellite color, and we monitored them for 1 year. And the results shows that the preliminary results shows that red pandas are clearly avoiding roads and cattle stations. This means, in the past, there were only cattle stations. There was very low population. That's in that scenario, red pandas were probably, adapting well, but the pressure on red panda habitat has been increased these days due to increasing population and increasing developmental activities. So in the long run, if we cannot address these issues, they may have very difficult time to cope with these changes. To make it further clear, here I have plotted the 3D diagram. Here we can see that, in this figure, we can clearly see that red pandas are avoiding roads. And here, these black lines represent these black lines represent the road. And the intensity of red panda, intensity of use of area increases from green to red with long spikes reflecting high use. Here we can clearly see that red pandas are avoiding these roads, and they are trying to occupy the area away from roads. Even here we can see that the home range of red panda is decreasing in areas with very high road density. We also examined the activity pattern of red pandas in response to disturbances. Here we can see red pandas have partitioned their activity pattern. This red line represents the activity pattern of red panda, and rest of those other lines represent the pattern of other disturbances. For example, this yellow is livestock, this black one is human, this purple one is dog, and this another green one is of the vehicles. And red panda is trying to avoid all these disturbances by partitioning their activity pattern. And further, as a professor who shared that the genetic diversity is decreasing towards west, and this shows that the red panda population in Nepal is having the lowest genetic diversities. This clearly shows that if we cannot come up with the right conservation plan as soon as possible, then the fate of red panda will be very disastrous in the near future. So after coming to this point, now I leave this up to you to judge if we are on the right track or not. So based on all these scenarios, what should be the future priorities to conserve red pandas in Nepal? I have highlighted the research and monitoring as the first priority, because without the science-based information, we cannot, plan, a robust conservation plan. So research and monitoring should definitely be the first priority. And secondly, we have to promote a community-based conservation approach, because 70% of the habitat of red panda lies outside the protected area, where the conservation activities are minimal and conservation challenges are very high. That's the reason we cannot avoid community-based conservation, and we have already proved that this approach has been really flourishing well in Nepal. And at the same time, but very important, we should adopt the landscape level conservation approach that should go beyond the transboundary, so that the red panda from Bhutan can be linked to the westernmost red panda range of Nepal in Kalikot. So in that sense, we should prioritize these all things. And coming to this point, with these notes, I'd like to thank you everyone for being with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Damarbista, for this nice presentation and very informative. How Nepal has been progressing in red panda conservation and the research. Of course, Dr. Yundar was the pioneer researcher in red panda conservation in Nepal. Thank you for remembering him in this talk. Your presentation basically focused in the 2 points, and then you have community-based conservation approaches and the transboundary approaches. In the remarks session, we want to hear more about these 2 topics from the expert. Thank you for such a nice presentation, Mr. Now moving to the another presentation, we have Mr. Dr. Mukesh Thakur. Dr. Thakur is working at the Zoological Survey of India. He's a scientist. He completed his PhD from Wildlife Institute of India with over 15 years of research experience on wildlife. He has been studying red panda genetics since the last 4 years in the entire distribution range in the Eastern Himalayas. Today, Dr. Thakur is presenting his talk entitled Conservation of Red Panda in India, Landscape Genetics Approach. I request Dr. Thakur to put his talk right now. Dr. Thakur, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dinesh. Am I audible?
Yes, very clearly.
Yeah, so thank you all here, the Red Panda range countries representative. To make this happen, we actually planning this event last year also, but somehow, we organized this event independently. So we had an idea, why not to have one combined event, and then 2 months back down the line, we just coordinated among ourselves, and we all are here. So thank you, Dr. Dinesh, to take this forward, and all other members who has contributed by deliberations and the earlier discussion meeting that we held. Just that was the planning exercise of this event. So we know that red panda is distributed in India, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and some part of Myanmar. Northern Myanmar. Although we don't get much information from Myanmar, and this is an really a gray landscape where I believe that Red Panda Network, if they have representation there, we should get this information at least from Myanmar, because people are working intensively in India, Nepal, and China. People are also contributing in Bhutan, but from Myanmar, we don't have much information. As far as the Red Panda distribution and the threats concerned in India, so like in Nepal, we have the major threat, that is the habitat loss and the poaching. And being representing Zoological Survey of India, that is a premium institute under Ministry of Environment and Forest in India, we do participate in with the law enforcement and in capacity building, train the different officers so that we can have a better law enforcement, and we also generate the genetic information that can be used in assigning the confiscated material to the source of origin. So we are working in different aspects. So we are into the field-oriented conservation also, and we are undertaking the genetics and genomic studies, and for supporting the red panda conservation and their habitats. So with this, I would like to share my talk, and yeah, I hope the talk will be visible to all.
Yes.
Yeah. So once again, happy Red Panda International Day to all. We know this event we have celebrating since 2010, and so far, I mean, in India we have Red Panda present in 20 protected areas, and I think in China there are 35 protected areas where Red Panda has been reported, and 5 in Bhutan and 8 in Nepal. And I say the estimate suggested we have approximately 500 Red Panda in captivity in different countries. So I start with the distribution of Red Panda. Just a minute. So my colleague from China, they presented that there are probably 2 species, or the term is phylogenetic species of Red Panda, which they say is the Himalayan Red Panda, and this is the Chinese Red Panda, and they say probably the Yalu-Jiangbo River is the barrier that segregate the Himalayan Red Panda and Chinese Red Panda. So it was believed that Himalayan Red Panda, because they had collected sample only from Nepal, and they have a big gap from this Kanchenjunga landscape and Bhutan and then Arunachal Pradesh. I'm sorry, this map I have taken from a published article, so this country boundaries are not corrected. So they have a good gap here while addressing this Red Panda species divergence. And this is in China and the Sichuan and Yunnan province, they although have 3 distinct populations, but they all belong to the Chinese Red Panda. And they have also given some morphological attributes that Himalayan Red Panda has a whitish color, fur on the faces, and the Chinese Red Panda has a distinct banding pattern in their tail. So this is what we have started with, and yeah. In India, if you see the Red Panda distribution, this found in Sikkim, in the Northwest Bengal, and in the Arunachal Pradesh. So this is a very much integral part of India. And in Meghalaya, that is Garo Hill and Khasi Hills. This has been reported by Chaudhary in 2001. However, we had some exploratory survey in Meghalaya, and we did not record the Red Panda presence from this place. And interestingly, this place is very much pretty different from the other landscape, because we know that Red Panda is a mountainous species and largely prefer elevation above than 2,500 meters. So in India, in North Bengal, there are 2 states called Darjeeling and Kalimpong, where Red Panda is distributed. So we have been working in the entire distribution range of Red Panda. So we are undertaking field survey and sample collections, and undertaking the questionnaire survey to understand the dependency of the locals on the forest resources, and how and why and they are killing or poaching Red Pandas. So the misfortune is that with all this coordinated efforts and the involvement of the Red Panda network and the law enforcement, different department, institution, ministry, still we are not able to safeguard the species. And in last 20 years, it's very unfortunate that the species has lost the ground by 50%, and probably there are 2,500 plus viable individuals left in the wild. So this is really a concern, that species losing ground as well as the number. So like in Chaudhary in 2001, he made an estimate about 17 to 20,000 Red Pandas present in wild. And now we have an estimate that is 2,500, and we don't know actually the real number. So it is believed that 1/3 population lies in China, and then rest of remaining countries. But this is a figure. I mean, this is an estimate, and we don't know the real figure, how many Red Pandas we have. So in JDSI, we are undertaking different activities for conserving red panda and their habitat. So we are in the business of, we are doing field survey and mapping, habitat, their corridors, and assessing the potential threat to red panda population. We are undertaking landscape genetic analysis. So we are trying to understand how the landscape feature is, influencing or shaping the red panda. So whether there's a good gene flow, or how the landscape features becoming barrier in the gene flow, how the deforestation, or because the arboreal species, small deforestation influence the species movement. So we are also recording the landscape features and how they are impacting the red panda movement. And then we are also developing digital sequence information. So we are sequencing all these samples, and this is to understand the confiscated material from they have originated, because we keep receiving samples from different law enforcement from different parts of the country, and many times there is a challenge to assign these samples to the source of origin. So the pal, the skin maybe see somewhere, but it might belong to Sikkim or so. This is digital sequence information help us in assigning the confiscated material to source of origin. We are in the business of raising awareness. We are making capacity building workshop for the law enforcement, and we keep organizing training and campaign, wildlife forensic training for the law enforcement. Recently, we have come up with a SOPs, standard operating procedures, how to deal with the wildlife forensic crimes. So this also include and demonstrate how red panda crime can be addressed. So this is the red panda distribution, and we have stratified for the area into 5 into 5 kilometer grids, and these grids, because red panda preferred, this is the 2,400 to 3,200 meter. This is the preferred elevation. So we have selected these grids, which falling in the middle zone as the preferred elevation of the red panda, and we undertake the exploratory survey, and then we collect samples, the scat sample, then scat sample we process for the genetic analysis. So this is a strategy that we followed. The students go collect samples, visit areas, and these fecal sample extract DNA and do the sequencing and genotyping. And so we have identified in the initial 2 years, we have focused in the Kanchenjunga landscape. So here I would like to draw my attention to the participants from Nepal and Bhutan. We have already worked in the Kanchenjunga landscape, and we have already established the panel for individual identification. So now there is a tool available by which you can identify individuals from the scats. So if you collect the scat samples, you do the genotyping with the select panel of markers, and you can identify the number of individuals present in those landscape. So we've already developed this panel. So and because this Kanchenjunga landscape lies in between the Nepal and Bhutan, so I can say this is probably one of the important populations which might have a gene flow with the Nepal and Bhutan. And Bhutan is even more important because it is a further connecting to the China, Arunachal Pradesh. So so it could be a stepping stone also. So how the gene flow is happening in red panda population, this is important to address. So here I want we can have a further collaborations in these areas so that we can understand how the red panda is moving the landscape. So in Kanchenjunga landscape, we have identified 24 unique individuals. And see, this is sort of the habitat modeling that we have done. So we have collected the habitat variable and the bioclimatic variable. Based on that, we have identified the potential distribution or the habitat suitability. And this map that we have used as a base map for undertaking genetic sampling, and then we have created a genetic landscape. So it's kind of a resistance landscape, and then with the circlescape we have tried to understand how the corridors are there in the landscape. So it's like we have now made the biological corridors, and these have been tested genetically on real ground that these corridors are being functional, and this has been operated used by the red pandas. And when we have done this genetic analysis, we found that populations are structured and they exist in the meta population framework. So there are actually population are loosely connected, and individuals are moving between the landscape. So this is good and important for the having a viable population in this. So we can say that at least in the Kanchenjunga landscape, India part, the population is doing well and have a little good heterolagosity as well. This is about the habitat suitability. So we have done in the Kanchenjunga landscape, different districts in Sikkim and the West Bengal. We have also mapped the suitability habitat. So I can say about 15% of the total, 15% of the total area that is available is suitable for red panda and is being used by the red pandas. And this study has already been quoted by my earlier two speakers. So they shows this, the Himalayan and Chinese red panda, there are two phylogenetic species. So as the Chinese scientists, they have established the Yalu-Jangbo River, probably the barrier. But then we have a intensive sampling in the eastern and central Arunachal Pradesh, and this actually the Siang River, which is the barrier. So so I can say that in India we have both the species of red panda. We have Himalayan red panda, which is in the central and the western part of the Arunachal Pradesh, but in the eastern part of Arunachal Pradesh, the Chinese red panda. So this is also supported by the phylogenetic analysis. The 4 individuals here marked in red were actually collected from the Dibang Dihang Biosphere Reserve in the eastern Arunachal Pradesh, which clustered with the Chinese red panda. And then we have also addressed the demographic pattern of red panda. So Himalayan red panda is unfortunately showing a declining trend in the recent past. So I can say in last 5,000 years or so, the population is declining. And however, in contrast, the Chinese red panda populations, showing a expansion. So this is a contrasting pattern, and it is very much, in agreement to the who at all who also mentioned that Chinese red panda is doing panda. So we are addressing to the wildlife crime, and I can say the wildlife crime is not confined to a state or a country, but it is a cancer for the conservation of the red panda. So we really need to get rid of this illegal activities, and we have to work hand in hand, and we need to share intelligence between the countries and the red panda range state. We have a very good network in India, and the government and the NGOs, they work in very close collaboration, and we keep organizing training workshop for them. The Traffic India that recently published this report that talk about the crime of red panda related crime is lowest in Bhutan, but it is ongoing in Nepal and India. So coming to summarizing my talk, that we have already worked intensively in the KL India part, and we have identified the biological corridors, and these biological corridors we have tested on the level of gene flow. And we say that red panda species divergence is estimated to occur during mid to late Pleistocene, and is agreement to the the Chinese scientists. And we found that Himalayan red panda is demographically declining in the last 2,000 to 4,000 years. So now we need to have a coordinated efforts between the neighboring countries, and we should have a maybe after this we can have the better coordination, because now we understand what we are doing in isolation and what we can do together. So the way forward from here now, because we have to cover the remaining part of red panda distribution in India, so we are focusing more in Arunachal Pradesh, and here we have some transboundary population with China. So that might be in the next year we would be able to address and give more result on that. And we are now analyzing more potential threats in the entire distribution range. So the students working on red panda are still in field, and just last week only he has shared some of the picture where red panda is being killed, and he has taken some photos. Yeah, we know that there are species, phylogenetic species, 2 species which we can even address by incorporating more samples from Arunachal Pradesh. We have to go for the preparing the conservation action plan. So this is what I want to have here to discuss with you all. So I would like to thank one and all to patiently listen to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Thakur, for this information and your nice presentation. And it is very nice to know how JSI has been working on red panda conservation in India. Yes, I agree. Genetic research definitely explores many aspects of red panda conservation in range country. I agree. More research are needed to be explored and overcome the research gap. Of course, we need a very collaborative research planning for the future. Thank you for such a nice presentation, Thakur. Now moving to the final presentation for the first session, we have Mr. Pema Denduk from Bhutan. Mr. Denduk is a senior forestry officer at Jingme Dorji National Park, Department of Forest and Park Services, Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, Bhutan government. He completed his master's in conservation biology from University of Kent, United Kingdom. He has been majorly worked in the field of wildlife conservation, including red panda in Bhutan. Today, Mr. Ben Denduk will be giving his talk on red panda conservation in Bhutan. Mr. Denduk, the floor is yours now. Mr. Denduk, yeah, I can see your PowerPoint.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. It's very clearly.
And my presentation?
Yes, it has been seen.
Thank you. Good morning, all the experts, and greetings from Bhutan. On the very onset, I would like to wish everyone a happy International Red Panda Day. Also, I would like to thank Resource Himalaya, Red Panda Network, and others for giving me this opportunity to share what's being done about Red Panda in our country. And in particular, I would like to thank my own colleague, Mr. Letro, and Mr. Dumber for personally contacting me and then giving me this platform. Well, I would also like to mention here that I'm as such not a Red Panda expert. And then the work of Red Panda works that has been done in other rest of the country, other range countries, as compared to what is being done in Bhutan is tremendous. So what I thought is like in my presentation, I'll not really delve into ecology and genetics and other aspects, but then I rather thought that it would be nice on my part to present on overall research on Red Panda and some of the conservation efforts which are there in the country. So I thought that that would be wiser on my part, because as I told you, the Red Panda research is very at infancy stage here right now. So now, without further ado, I would like to directly go with my presentation. All right. This is my presentation outline. So firstly, I'll be discussing a little bit on existing conservation efforts in Bhutan, and then Red Panda conservation in Bhutan, and then research status on Red Panda, research gap, and some of the opportunities. And finally, I'll close with conservation threats and challenges. Coming to conservation efforts in Bhutan, like any other countries in the world, like we do have strong government policies. Like we have a mother document like a Forest and Nature Conservation Act 1995, Forest and Nature Conservation Rules and Regulations 2017 and 20, which directly prohibits any people from killing wildlife. And then also we have a Constitution of Bhutan, like Article 5, which says that we have to maintain 60% of forest cover for all times to come. So if you maintain this forest cover, 60% of forest cover for all times to come, then obviously, like when habitat is protected, species are protected. So in continuation, like we have 71% of the total land area under forest cover, and of which like 51.44%, more than half of the total land is under protected area system. We have 11 protected areas, like 5 national parks, 4 wildlife sanctuaries, 1 nature reserve, and 1 botanical park, followed connected with 8 biological corridors. And then if you come to Red Panda conservation in Bhutan, like Red Panda is listed in Schedule 1 of the Forest and Nature Conservation Act 1995, which means it is receiving highest legal protection. And also like a Red Panda is conserved through community-based conservation initiatives, like in for some of the protected areas where people they live, like we do not allow them to collect resources from the forest areas, and in lieu of that, we supply them, issue them with roofing materials such as CGI sheets and all like that. These are all done in order to protect fir and bamboos, which are the prime habitat and the prime food for red panda. And then in this way, like we do a little bit of trade-offs. And next is like we believe that the sighting of red panda has to be a good luck. So in this case, like when people know that sighting of red panda is a good luck, they do not indulge themselves in killing red pandas. Then some of the research that we have carried out in Bhutan, like as I told you earlier, like the red panda research is very infancy right now in the country. Like it just started from 2011, unlike India, China, and Nepal. Like many research on different aspects have been carried out, but in Buddhist context, like we have just started with overview of potential distribution, some habitat preferences and ecology, and also distribution and conservation threats. These are the studies that we have carried out. And then some of the gaps we have, like as we told you, like in the rest of the range countries, they are way ahead. But in our case, like we lack information on population dynamics, foraging ecology, breeding and movement ecology, and also like we do not have habitat availability, apart from some of the literatures like published by Dr. Thapa and all, Dr. Thapa and my colleague Bista, Tamal Bista and all, like they do have mentioned that in Bhutan we have suitability ability, this many areas available for red panda and all like that. But then at our own context, in our own local level, we don't have that. So also like we lack education awareness thing. This is because like except in few of the protected areas, especially Jigme National Park and Sakhtang Wildlife Sanctuary, there isn't much conservation awareness and education created on red panda conservation. Like very early in 2000 in JDNP, the students were given awareness on red panda conservation. And in Sakhtang Wildlife Sanctuaries, like a few students of Merak Primary School, they were identified as junior rangers to promote red panda conservation. So other thing we lack here is the gap we have is lack of coordination between different stakeholders. Like as a conservationist, and also we know that red pandas avoid areas with livestock, and then we have a Department of Livestock, and then they are more into promoting indigenous livestock breed like Nublang and all like that. They are very much capable of traveling far into the forest and then hence disturb red panda areas. So like in this area we need to have a coordination, but that is lacking. So in one hand, we say that we will conserve red panda thing, and red panda conservation will take part with red panda conservation. In the other hand, like Department of Livestock and all, they are into promoting indigenous cattle breed. So there's a lack of coordination between us. And then being said, mentioned gap research opportunities, like as mentioned by Dr. Thapa in his earlier from Bhutan, and also survey in Bhutan. So these are these like we have some opportunities to conserve red panda in our country. And also like in the earlier literatures, like we have mentioned, like red pandas are present in about 13 to 17 districts of total 20 districts in the country. But now with camera trap studies and all like that, we have confirmed that red pandas are there in 19 districts of total of 19 districts, and this gives us a wider avenue for us to carry research in larger areas. So similarly, area and corridors. Studies come to the 200 meters, 1,500 meters to as high as 4,300 meters. So also there's also a wider avenue for us to carry out research within this range, altitudinal range. And also in the earlier areas, except for cool broadleaf forest, mixed conifer forest, and fir forest, red pandas were not recorded from meadows and alpine scrubs. So this time we do have red panda presence from meadows and alpine scrubs. Sorry. I couldn't go.
Yeah, we are hearing. There are some interruption, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, maybe my net is not that strong. I cannot move with my next slide.
We can just see your research opportunity on Red Panda. That slide.
Yeah, I cannot. All right. Yeah. Sorry. And also, like as earlier, like we do have some conservation threats, and these conservation threats are no different from what has been presented by earlier speakers. Like we do have habitat destructions and fragmentations, and one major thing we have in our country is like we have been seeing increasing like red panda kills by stray dogs, domestic animals, and then one positive thing about us is like poaching is almost non-prevalent in our country. And these are some of the pictures like rescued from stray dogs and red pandas killed by stray dogs. And then you can see habitat degradation, and red pandas are trying to adjust into such degraded habitat. And then you do have some conservation challenges like impending threats from climate change. With this climate change, like there's a possibility of shrinkage in available red panda habitat, and then as habitats are shrinking, like there will be a shortage of food availability. And also livestock practice and traditional rights, like people have grazing rights over certain areas, and then that happens to be a red panda area, and we just cannot directly say that you cannot graze in such areas. So also like inadequate resources and capacities, like we lack fund for research works, and then also like most of the works are carried out by forestry officials at present in our country. So like then we also need to, there are some inadequate technical capacities for these forest officials as well. So these are the challenges that we have. And yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Prema Dendu, for this nice talk in the presentation. And it was very informative about the status of red panda and its conservation approaches that Bhutan has been adopting, and the research opportunity that the researcher can do in Bhutan. Thank you so much for this information and then the presentation. With this, we conclude the first session, and we'll move to the next session. Before moving to the next session, I have one announcement to the participants that we are not having some sound or the interactive session for the session, this session, but I can see some of the queries in the chat box. I request all the presenters to address or respond the queries if possible that is appear in the chat box. So with this, my sincere thanks to all the presenters, I conclude the first session here and move to the second session. In the second session, we will have 4 persons from different institutions working in red panda conservation around the globe. We'll take a brief remarks from each experts on various issues of red panda conservation. We have Dr. Angela Gladson from Red Panda Network. Dr. Gladson has a background in geology and did her PhD in physical anthropology. She is the president of Red Panda Network. Over the years, she has worked as a research biologist, curator of mammals, conservation coordinator. She has over 30 years of experience and has been working actively involved in red panda related activities. Dr. Gladson is also active in ex situ conservation of red panda. So we would like to hear from Dr. Gladson about ex situ conservation approaches for red panda conservation around the globe. Giving some information about the session, I'm just asking some queries about some issues, and then the presenter or the expert will address that queries in a remarks. So my first query is to Dr. Gladson is how the ex situ and in situ conservation have been bridging, and how to strengthen the conservation approaches for long-term conservation of red panda. Dr. Gladson, could you please provide your remarks on that issue?
Yeah, Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you very clear.
There's been a strong link between the zoo population and the zoo breeding program of red pandas and field conservation for a number of years now. We have a global breeding population of red pandas, which is coordinated centrally and covers all the red pandas housed in the United States, Europe, Japan, Australasia, and India. And that group organization is called the Global Species Management Plan, and we are partnered with Red Panda Network. The global population is stable and both demographically and genetically. We have about 600 Fulgens red pandas and about 300 to 400 Steyans red pandas housed in zoos around the world. So zoos benefit, of course, naturally from the data that your experts collect. Information on animals in the field helps us with deciding how best to house and keep our red pandas. It also provides information which we can pass on to the general public in the form of education. It may be less easy for most of you to see how zoos might benefit field research and conservation. But as I said, we have two viable populations of red pandas that have never been interbred, that should at some stage in the future animals be required for reintroduction or restocking, there is this reserve population. We also have a very important role in awareness. Today, many hundreds of zoos around the world will also be celebrating International Red Panda Day with us and telling this, providing their visitors with an extra information or educational display on red pandas. And this, of course, links with fundraisings as awareness increases in zoos in the West, certainly in the Western countries. We are getting more money coming in for red panda conservation, not only from the zoos and their public, but also because zoos have links to regional funding agencies. And as an example of this, the Swedish postcode lottery via one of the zoos in Europe is funding the construction of a conservation and sustainability education centre in Nepal. And we also can help in another way in research and education. We have, for example, we can use our experience to, or our facilities to try out approaches on red pandas that you don't want to try out in the field. The collars used in Nepal were tried out in the red pandas in Rotterdam Zoo before they were used in Nepal. We can also help look at various aspects of behaviour. Although captivity does have an impact on behaviour, it does not change it totally. And some things we can investigate at close contact, close approximation, which you can't do in the field. We have, for example, a lot of information on maternal care in the nest, which I think in the field would be very difficult to collect. Also, with regard to the two species or subspecies, we now have an awful lot of data from zoos, which in the past we considered showed a degree of variation between two subspecies. As we now reanalyze it, we can see that there is some clear differences between Steyans and the Himalayan red panda. And the final area we can help with is with veterinary information and trying out vaccines if that should ever become necessary. We know the diseases that red pandas are particularly susceptible to. And I think from captivity to the wild, the most important one is canine distemper, which is as lethal to red pandas as it is, for example, to black-footed ferrets, and is something which I think field conservation is not paying enough attention to.
Thank you, Dr. Gladson. It was very nice information regarding the ex situ and in situ conservation approaches and how that can breathe into each other. And very nice conclusion that ex situ conservation and ex situ conservation can supplement to in situ conservation in addition to the public awareness generation and the getting behavioral information about the red panda in the zoo. And of course, if we integrate ex situ and in situ conservation, that ultimately helps to conserve the red panda in the wild. Thank you for the remarks, Dr. Gladson. Now moving to the another remarks and another expert. I hope we will want to hear from Dr. Sunita Pradhan about the transboundary conservation approaches and the research issues that has been receiving in the field. Dr. Sunita Pradhan is from India and she works at the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment. She has an expertise on wildlife ecology, conservation biology, and endangered species. She has carried out various researches on mammals, including red panda. We want to hear about the transboundary issues and the conservation approaches from Dr. Pradhan. Particularly, my questions to Dr. Pradhan is how transboundary conservation and the research can help in red panda conservation in the range countries. Because as already mentioned in the earlier session, that the collaboration is an integral part. So how that transboundary conservation approaches can implement or can be implemented through research. Dr. Pradhan?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Very clear.
Yes, okay. Yeah, namaskar and greetings to all from Sikkim, India. I'm really very happy to be connected here today. Thank you so much for this invitation. First of all, I would like to say that I'm not as much actively working on red panda ecology as I would have liked to lately, but I'm happy to see that the younger generation of researchers and the scholars who are very active and doing really, really good work. I would like to heartily congratulate all of them. I mean, excellent presentations, and it was really good to hear them. For me, understanding and working to reduce threats to the species held and still hold a lot of interest, actually. I'm really interested in the threats of the species. So with this, I went on to understand the contribution of tourism to red panda conservation, with some of the red panda habitats being important tourist destinations. We got to understand that there are such very nuanced differences in conservation issues, even between sites in the same landscape, requiring site-specific interventions. So that's a little bit of our present work on red panda. So coming to my remarks on transboundary research and conservation, as well as other aspects, I thought I will touch on other aspects apart from transboundary research. And as other aspects of red panda conservation, I will share what I mostly see around me and what experiences are there. I mean, this is more from my own ground experiences. So most of the range habitats and areas of red panda, as we all know, are transboundary in nature. And most of us also know that there is cross-border movement of species with habitats ranging from one country to another. There are differences. However, there are differences in national policies, priorities, land management and land use, etc. And also, most of these regions are also strategically positioned, which are challenges to transboundary conservation and sometimes research too. So we faced a couple of these. I'm talking from experience, actually. So I would say a collaborative work on movement ecology of red panda, across the borders in any of these areas, and in any of these transboundary areas would be important. Such studies would have policy implications on a regional level and truly influence the transboundary collaboration for conservation. So that's that for the conservation transboundary research. And apart from this, one thing I really wanted to draw your attention is to the fact that red panda is reported from outside protected areas. I'm so sorry, Dr. Dinesh, I'm going a little, out of the point here, but I thought this was very, very important. And it's also of my interest, so I thought I will talk about this. Of the red pandas being outside, lying outside protected areas. We saw this from even Dr. Arjun's presentation, and there are other couple of studies also, and our own experience also showing that red pandas are outside protected areas. So what happens is, like, wildlife outside protected area system is very, very vulnerable to high mortality rate and high human wildlife conflicts due to inadequate legal protection. Of course, we are seeing this with our own engagement in the socio-ecological landscapes of the Eastern Himalaya. The human-dominated landscapes usually do not come under any usual purview of targeted wildlife conservation paradigm, with mainstream conservation movements still focused on the protected area systems. Hence, the presence of red panda in areas outside protected areas in the social, human-dominated, sometimes even production landscape brings in a completely different dynamics. These landscapes are very, very heterogeneous, as we all know. Complex, they are very complex and also very dynamic. They vastly differ in management from somewhat linear management of the protected areas. And so hence there are many challenges here there for the species and its conservation, but also of a scope, especially to involve local community who actually are at the heart of biodiversity conservation, which was so well brought out by our Dumbar Bishtaji. He really emphasized on the community conservation, and this is actually what we really need to do. There is a need to, there is therefore a need to recognize the importance of red panda conservation in these managed ecosystems. That's very, very important, however, I must also mention that this requires, managing red pandas in these managed ecosystems will require a lot of involvement and long-term engagement on part of the conservationists, practitioners, managers, and even researchers. Engaging with different actors, stakeholders, it's always very, very time-taking, and it needs a lot of engagement. So this is somehow, to some extent, or to, let's say, to a large extent, has been exemplified by Red Panda Network, who's functioning in Eastern Himalaya, working with community in the Eastern Himalaya for Red Panda conservation. So, and something which we also saw from Dambaji's presentation. As far as research is concerned in these managed ecosystems, researchers could look into the ecology and dial activities, something which again Dambaji mentioned, about the activities, the dial activities. He's even showed us a slide on that to understand the adaptive strategies of red panda in the human-dominated landscapes. I think that's very, very important, because we are doing this kind of activity and adaptation to understand adaptive strategies for other mammals in these ecological landscapes, in the socio-ecological landscapes. So even for red panda, I think it's very important that researchers take up this. And finally establishing monitoring programs is very, very important to understand trends and evaluate interventions. Engaging citizen science is very, very important, which again, Dambaji brought this out in his presentations, and we've been using this, and is a pretty powerful, strategy in conservation, citizen science. This would be important for all these would be very, very important for appropriate interventions, also important in the face of climate change. Such engagements in these human-dominated landscapes could also help to improve connectivity in red panda habitat corridors, because we've seen that we do map out corridors, and but we really have to look into the functionality of these corridors also. And unless we don't work on a community level on the ground, these corridors would fall behind in their functionality as far as conservation on the ground is concerned. With all these, there is this other effective area-based conservation measures also, which is being recognized by the CBD. It was, I think, around 2018. So working in areas outside protected areas for red panda conservation would also align with the global conservation efforts and strategies. So these are some of my observations. And once again, thank you so much, and happy International Red Panda Day to all. And on this day, I would also like to take an opportunity to pay homage to Dr. Prahlad Jansen and remember him on this Red Panda Day for his enormous contribution to red panda conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pradhan, and thank you for remembering Dr. Jansen in this day. It was very nice information, and then your remarks regarding the transboundary issues in conservation. Yes, I agree. Understanding threat is integral part of conservation. Collaborative research is needed in movement ecology and the transboundary conservation program. Of course, human dimension of red panda conservation should be priority. As you mentioned, red panda, most of the red pandas are outside of protected areas. So we need to integrate the social dimension into the conservation, and then the successful program can be formulated. Another important remarks that you mentioned is ecosystem, red panda ecology and ecosystem, like recognizing the red panda's importance into the ecology and the ecosystem. And we have to adapt the methodology and the strategy for the joint monitoring between the transboundary countries, and the citizen science engagement is also integral part. Thank you so much for such kind of information and that remarks. With that, we move to another remarks from Mr. Harish Chandra Rai. Harish Chandra Rai is from Red Panda Network Nepal office. Mr. Rai is a program development manager at Red Panda Network Nepal office. He completed his master's in geology and ecology from Tribhuvan University, Nepal. He has over 15 years of experience in the field of wildlife conservation. His expertise include biodiversity conservation, forest management, and he has been actively working in community-based species conservation. So we have been talking about the community engagement, community-based conservation approaches throughout the presentation. So we want to hear from the Mr. Rai how community-based conservation approaches have been implemented in the ground, and has it been an effective for long-term conservation goal? Mr. Rai, can you address that and then give a remarks?
Thank you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh, for your questions. Before proceeding further, I would like to extend my best wishes to all the red panda lovers and enthusiasts throughout the world on the occasion of this International Red Panda Day. So jumping to your question, community-based red panda conservation that Red Panda Network adopted since its establishment in 2007 was in a slow pace in the beginning, so to say, since the beginning of 2010, which was upscaled during the next implementation phase of 5 years. Say it's 5 years down the line. So community-based conservation in Nepal's RPN started community-based conservation from Eastern Nepal, and it is now been expanded to Western Nepal. So thank you, Dambar based also, because most of my backgrounds were covered in his presentation as well as in Angela's presentation. So rather spending my time on the background, I would jump into the effectiveness of community-based best conservations that RPN realized till today. As a matter of fact, RPN, Red Panda Network, conducts its community-based conservation activities on 4 major themes. First one, through the research and monitoring of Red Panda in the wild. Second is education and awareness. Red Panda Network also conducts field activities, field interventions on habitat management, Red Panda habitat management, and also to some extent in livelihood improvement. So besides those 4 major themes, Red Panda Network also conducts its activities, interventions, or some support activities on policies, as well as on coordination and cooperation. So beginning with the research, Red Panda Network work is upscaling the initial research work that was started in the late 1980s in Nepal by late Dr. Yonjan. And later in 2016, Red Panda Network, in collaboration with the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation and Department of Forest, achieved a milestone research work in Nepal, which was National Red Panda Survey. So now coming to 2021, as Dumbar Bista presented in his presentation, we are on the way to achieve another milestone research work on wild red panda through the cutting edge technology. So this is also in collaboration with Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation and Department of Forests. Besides local forest users, they select proactive forest users. We train them, and they are recruited as forest guardians, which regularly monitors their community forests. Till now, we've been conducting this work in 73 community forests, both in eastern Nepal as well as in western Nepal. So in this work, 26 local municipalities are partnering with the local community forest users. So this is on research work, and definitely going back to the 70s, 80s, Red Panda was a very, very unknown animal to most of the local people. So in order to address that gap in knowledge and awareness, Red Panda Network also conducts activities on education and awareness. So till now, over 23,000 students and teachers are involved in different Red Panda conservation awareness campaigns throughout our working districts. Likewise, over 700,000 parents as well as local people, they were outreached with Red Panda conservation awareness events, activities, and other information materials. On Red Panda, which was a species, as I mentioned, poorly known in the even in 2000s, are now known to the many different stakeholders, local people, stakeholders, even government, non-government organizations, staffs, and individuals. But unfortunately, illegal poaching and trade of red panda pelt is increasing in this context, and this recent pandemic also put biggest threat on regular monitoring in community forest, and also it also played a part to increase the incidence of poaching. So Red Panda Network also works with Department of Forests. Since we work only in the community forests, we don't work in the protected areas. We work only in the community forests. Therefore, we are collaborating with Department of Forests, district level Department of Forests staffs, as well as local security personnel and other, local municipalities to establish anti-poaching networks there. So there are 6 different anti-poaching networks that we are working with at the moment. So in this duration, we have trained over 100,000 different security personnels, and also to address some of the previous presentations, because illegal poaching, illegal killing, illegal poaching, and illegal trade of red panda hide is increasing. Fortunately, it's not that higher scale in Bhutan. I mean, it's now almost none in comparison to India and Nepal. So as a way forward, Red Panda Network is working with different our board members, as well as inside and outside, to implement or to introduce artificial intelligence in controlling this illegal trade of red panda. So coming to the habitat management, Red Panda Network, mostly this is in the eastern Nepal, since we started working in eastern Nepal since 2011. So we have restored over 66 hectares of degraded and denuded forest areas, and part of those forests connects they are the critical corridor to connect red panda, contiguous red panda forest in Nepal with the adjoining red panda habitat in Singalila National Park in India. So over 12,000 hectares of community forests are under, red panda conservation initiatives are underway in over 200 to 1,200,000 hectares of community forest through the community forest user groups. Over 60 community forest user groups operational plans have integrated the red panda conservation measures. So with this, we hope that future conservation of red panda, in those community forests would be sustainable, since community forest operational plans are, the mandatory or government, it's the legitimate government, plan. So over 400, we have until now we have planted over 400,000 different native seedlings and saplings of red panda preferred species and other local native species of plants, saplings, and seedlings in those corridors and connectivities. And definitely in red panda habitats, in and around the red panda habitat, local people are smallholder farmers. Definitely their livelihood is very difficult. So encouraging them in conservation of red panda as well as conservation of habitat is next to impossible unless and until we address their livelihood needs. Therefore, Red Panda Network has adopted this 4th theme, livelihood improvement. So in those areas, definitely there is no alternative of cooking and heating. So most of the people, they use firewood for cooking and heating. So in order to provide some alternative, Red Panda Network is promoting improved cooking stoves in those areas. So till now in eastern and as well as western Nepal, we have provided such facilities to over 300 families. and it would be adopted. Hopefully, it will be adopted as a very sustainable alternative solution. So livestock herding techniques in red panda habitat, in and around red panda habitat in both eastern as well as in western Nepal, livestock herding practices are, it's a traditional practice. So that the practice is very closely integrated, closely related with the agricultural or farming of agricultural occupation of local people. So in order to improve their livelihood herd or livestock herding practices, Red Panda Network, we have provided them with support to improve their livestock herding practices with improved herding sheds to replace the traditional herding sheds, which uses, firewood, not only firewood, but also the timber as well as other forest resources, to keep their livestock. So besides that, Red Panda Network also has supported local families with vegetable farming and non-timber forest product farming in those areas. So as Angela also presented, so livelihood, the living standard of the local people in those red panda habitats is not easy. So therefore, Red Panda Network also plans to provide them with techniques, capacities, or demonstrations to adopt improved and sustainable livelihood technologies. So with that purpose, including combined with the Red Panda conservation, informations, Red Panda Network has been constructing or supporting local community forest in Taplejung at the moment to establish or to construct a community learning center that would be that will cater to the local people as well as visitors later on, and that is also to link Red Panda conservation, Red Panda Network's current interventions on ecotourism promotion. In Eastern Nepal, Red Panda Network is involved in promoting this ecotourism, Red Panda-based ecotourism promotion in 4 different settlements, which consist of over 7 community forests, and there are over 40 families involved in ecotourism promotion activities. And besides that, those are the 4 main themes that Red Panda Networks is working at the moment. So in terms of policy, as a cross-cutting theme, I also mentioned policy. So thanks to the government of Nepal, Red Panda Network worked in collaboration with government of Nepal to have an action plan, Red Panda Conservation Action Plan, 2019 to 2023, which is the basis of our field intervention at the moment. And besides that, community forest operation plans would be the local policy that will guide Red Panda conservation activities in collaboration with local municipalities later on. Red Panda Network is also collaborating at the outset of the new federal system in Nepal. Red Panda Network is also coordinating with the provincial ministries besides the federal ministries and departments. In Province 1, since we work in Pastar, Ilam, and Taplejung of Province 1, we've been coordinating with the Ministry of Industry, Tourism, Forest, and Environment in the Province 1 ministry, and that coordination at least have integrated Red Panda establishment of Red Panda conservation area in the provincial government's annual program and plan this year. So we've been working on that also. And lastly, transboundary cooperation and coordination is one of the cross-cutting theme that Red Panda Network is providing, was putting its effort on. We are working in collaboration with Nature Conservation Division of Bhutan for Red Panda research and collaboration in research work in Nepal and in Bhutan. Also, we are trying to establish collaboration with Indian side of the Indian side to conduct research on Northeast India. And another one of the most important interventions that Red Panda Network planned back in 2019 is one regional workshop of Red Panda raised countries in Nepal. So we planned it in 2019, and we also went through with the government of Nepal to do co-work on this. Sadly, the pandemic was still on, pandemic was on, and pandemic is still on, and we are still looking forward to it. So yeah, these are some of the effectiveness that Red Panda conservation work or Red Panda Network is currently working on. And finally, the major takeaway of this remark, as a major takeaway of this remark, I have 2 points. One is illegal trade. To curb or to control illegal trade of Red Panda, definitely transboundary cooperation, transboundary coordination and cooperation is very important for Red Panda Network. Therefore, we are collaborating with government of Nepal, different departments. So as I mentioned previously, we are thinking of, or we are looking into the potentiality of artificial intelligence.
Harris, could you please start on?
Yeah, I mean, another point. The final one is, this is the regional workshop that Red Panda Network is planning. So we don't know when the pandemic situation will ease off, and we would be able to, organize this. So with this, thank you very much for this opportunity to highlight some of the effective interventions that Red Panda Network is conducting at the moment. Thank you very much, Dr. Dinesh, and the entire team.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Haris Chandra Rai, for these remarks on community-based conservation approaches. It is glad to know its success and also expanding, like Red Panda Network is expanding to western side of Nepal as well. Yes, we all agree that community-based conservation could be successful only if we can address or integrate local people's livelihood into conservation. Otherwise, it is not. It would not be successful. It is very nice to know that RPN has been working on this direction. Thank you so much, Mr. Rai, for these remarks. And of course, we need a very good symposium to get all the researchers into one platform and share the ideas and the research output with the larger community. Hopefully, this can be managed very soon, so that all the researchers can come and then meet together. But COVID, yes, you mentioned the COVID is the problem, but I hope we can overcome with the situation very soon. Now, with the final remarks, we have Mr. Haribhadra Acharya, an ecologist from Department of National Park and Wildlife Conservation, Nepal. He has been involving in Nepal government since last 25 years. And he has a master's degree in natural resource and environmental management from Thailand. As we already discussed about the collaboration and then the transboundary collaboration as well as the government initiations is key integral part for the red panda conservation. We just want to hear from Mr. Acharya how government of Nepal has been working on that direction for the transboundary collaboration and cooperation, as well as how the neighboring countries has been approaching for these approaches from the Nepalese perspective. Could you please put your remarks on this aspect, Mr. Acharya? The floor is yours now.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. First of all, I would express happy Red Panda Day 2021 to you all. I think we are already running out of the time schedule. I will try to complete my session within the given time. As conservation is not limited within the political boundary, it goes outside the boundary, and conservation is a continued process. In this line, the initiation for the conservation of red panda in Nepal was mainstreamed in the Red Panda Conservation Action Plan 2019 to 2023 with the goal of protecting and managing red panda population in Nepal. It has identified major 5 objectives, and one of the major objective is related to the transboundary collaboration and cooperation. Because the conservation goes beyond the boundary, as I already told, we have to collaborate and cooperate with different stakeholders and with different nations or states. The program that launched by today's program, this is the celebration of the Red Panda Day. It has also importance in at the transborder level, because all the stakeholders from among the Red Panda states are collaborating and taking participation in this program. It has importance in 2 aspects. One is to share the good lessons of the red panda conservation in different nations, and other is very important aspect is awareness building among the stakeholders as well as to the local community. We should always think about the local communities for the actions, and we should always seek the cooperation and collaboration from the globes, from all over the global stakeholders. So government of Nepal has also given priority to the multi-stakeholder involvement as well as international collaboration and cooperation for the conservation. However, the more importance is given to the megafaunas like elephants, tigers, or big cats. The small mammals like red panda and other many species, they are not considered important. Sometimes we say if we preserve the ecosystem, all the species will be preserved or conserved. In this aspect, the government has also implemented some landscape approach strategies that identifies the involvement of different stakeholders as well as the understanding between the boundaries or among the transborder countries like India, China, and Nepal. If we work in collaboration, we can truly preserve the biodiversity. And also the government is involved in many international conventions like CBD, Convention on Biological and Diversity, and Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna. These 2 conventions are very important for the conservation of biodiversity at species, ecosystem, and genetic level, and to control the illegal trade in transporter level. So the government has given priority to implement these conventions by developing domestic laws and strategies at the national level. For example, Nepal National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan 2014 to 20 has given priority to preserve the species. So, and it has targeted to develop the species conservation action plans like red panda, tiger, elephants, many other species of flora and fauna both. And we are now doing our conservation activities in line with those conventions. And to control the poaching, especially at the poaching is in the trans-border level, in controlling the poaching activities or illegal trade activities, we have to seek the helps from the other countries or bordering countries, and we need to share the information and to check the illegal activities at the border. So we involve the concerned stakeholders within the country, as well as we are collaborating with the concerned agencies at the trans-border level. And Nepal conducts several trans-border meetings with India and with China at the district level, and also at the national level. And furthermore, Nepal has a memorandum of understanding with the India government and Chinese government to curb the illegal activities that goes beyond the border. And we share the data or informations regularly. Further, some networks like SAWEN, South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network, that was established in 2011, we work together, especially the South Asian states. In the Red Panda states, we have 5 countries. Among these, 3 countries are within the South Asia region: India, Bhutan, and Nepal. We can share the issues of the red panda conservation in such networks as well. For controlling the poaching activities, we have a good network to work at the national level with the Nepal police. Nepal police is involved in controlling the poaching of wildlife in several districts. We can have a data of confiscation of red panda skins as well. Still, we have threat of poaching of red panda. This part we can control the poaching and illegal trade with collaboration of the stakeholders like Nepal police and Nepali army within our country. And outside the country, we can use such networks like SAWEN or Interpol. Interpol is also helping us to control the illegal activities that are especially the poachers. They have good network and they stay sometimes outside the country. In such cases, Nepal police helps us for checking the illegal activities outside of the country. So international collaboration and cooperation is very important to control the illegal activities, especially in the wildlife trafficking. Also within our country, the conservation needs some funds because conservation is for the earth, not for the local community as well. We can have some benefits at the local level, but it benefits to the earth. That's why we have to give importance and attract the international donor agencies as well to support for the conservation. We can use many platforms like IUCN, World Conservation Congress platforms, and other conventions and other international symposiums to have a collaboration at international level as well. in this line, only government, only working with the government is not important. We have to work together. All the INGOs, NGOs, local communities, and other stakeholders, we have to collaborate and cooperate to get the objective of the conservation be successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haribhadra Acharya, sir, for this information. Yes, of course, collaboration and cooperation not only within the government or the governmental level, but also with the different stakeholders, including the NGOs, INGOs, and the citizen scientists, the researchers, academicians is integral part of conservation. This is also important to gather information, but also to share the modality of success stories and adapt the success story into the country level. Also important for the control illegal trade that we can conclude from your remarks. Thank you so much for providing such information regarding the collaboration approaches that Nepal has been doing or initiating with the neighboring countries. With that, we are at the end of the program. Thanks. I would like to thank panelists and participants for your time and consideration in the today's program. From the organizing team and the partners institutions, Red Panda Network, Zoological Survey of India, Department of Forest Bhutan, Small Mammal Conservation and Research Foundation from Nepal, and Resources Himalayan Foundation from Nepal. I would like to thank all the presenter, participants, experts, panelists for their time and his support to make this event successful. With that, program is now concluded. Happy International Red Panda Day to you all. Namaste, stay safe and take care.
Namaste, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.